Hello, welcome to Geeky Hijinks, home of the Mischief Makers, and today we're looking at St. Maud. So what's this film about exactly? It's basically about a woman called Maud who, after a traumatic event, is assigned to care for a retired dancer called Amanda who's dying of late stage cancer. And after recently finding religion, she sees Amanda as God's purpose for her and that she must save Amanda's soul before she passes on. So I went into this film with no expectations at all, but I have heard of this film. When I was starting my channel up, I made a list of all the films that came out last year and some that come out this year. And this is where I got confused because on a lot of people's list was St. Maud, but I could see it was out, but yet people were looking forward to coming out this year. And that confused me a little bit. And it was only when I looked into the film more that I realised that this film's been out in the UK for a while, so I suck because I didn't know this. So everyone in America and Canada and Australia and around the world going, oh, it's out finally, whereas me, I've had about 10,000 opportunities to watch it already. But going to this film with no expectations isn't a bad thing because I can't be let down, but at the same time, I could love this movie, so I was going in completely blind. So with that in mind, what did I think? Well, let's find out. So what did I like about the film? There was quite a bit I liked. I didn't mention this in the beginning, but this is Rose Glass's first feature film. She's done a few short films. I can't say I've ever heard of her before this, but this is her first feature film. Then I'm looking forward to see what else she brings out in the future. So let's start out with the characters and the acting, starting with the main actress. It's Morfydd Clark! I'm sorry. Now, Maud is a character you spend 98% of this film with, which is good and bad, because if you don't like the actress, don't like her portrayal, don't like Maud as a character, you're not going to enjoy this movie at all. Now, this is the first time I've seen Clark perform in anything. Never heard of her before, never seen her in anything before this, but luckily for me, I enjoyed both her portrayal of Maud and Maud the character. Now, Maud, I can't say is the most iconic or memorable character going. To be honest with you, I don't think down the line she would ever pop into my head again. She's a nice character though. She's got good intentions, she wants to take her religion seriously, which is admirable, and she wants to do good by people. She comes across like the Joker, and that she's not the most, reliable narrator. You don't know what she's saying is happening, whether she's crazy, or whether it's sort of a bit of the middle, and that she's interpreting things wrong and right, and she's making good and bad decisions as a result. But as a whole, I thought the character was portrayed really well, and I look forward to seeing what Clark does in the future. Now, there are other performances in this movie, but not really worth touching on, but the only character of note is probably Amanda. Now, Amanda is described early on as a see you next Tuesday. So I was expecting some Miss Trunchbull forcing you to eat chocolate cake, evil, haggardy witch woman. And she came across more like a prima donna. She's like a choreographer or a dancer from maybe back in the day. And she's just annoyed and she's depressed that she's dying and she's bedridden and she's got carers and she's not living that lifestyle anymore and she's living in this little UK seaside town. And that's when I knew things were going to take a dark turn. When I saw that, I was like, oh no, UK seaside town. And Amanda's okay. She's in it enough, but she doesn't really add too much to the movie. She's portrayed really well, but it doesn't do too much apart from maybe just be Maud's sole purpose. But when you watch the film a couple of times, and how you know how the film ends and how it goes on in the third act, which is really good by the way, you can see her early scenes as maybe something else, because she mocks Maud quite a bit, or she looks at her like she's mocking her in a weird way. And is that because she's just being a mean person, or if you've seen the film, she's doing it because of that reason? But Amanda in the beginning of the film is in tune with Maud, kind of on the same page, and that's what builds a connection between her and Maud, and that's what makes Maud pretty possessed. Did I just ruin the film? Would I describe this as a horror film? Not really. It's not like on lines of The Exorcist or The Omen or The Exorcism of Emily Rose, because initially that's what I thought this film was going to be about, because kind of Maud looks like Carrie, and with the picture of her sort of levitating, I thought, oh, it's like a Carrie meets Exorcist kind of movie. And it has splashes of that, I suppose. But most of the horror comes in the third act, and I'll be honest with you, that was wicked, like last 15-20 minutes. I really enjoyed the last 3 seconds of the film. I think I'm the only one that did, but I was like, oh, that's messed up. And the film looks really good too. I'm not one of those, I couldn't stand the cinematography. I'm not one of those people, but I like the way the film looked. It makes a UK seaside town look really nice, and nothing can make a UK seaside town look good. But like the camera angles, like there was a few shots where Maud sort of trapped in like a keyhole kind of shape. And there's an angle. And they did it a couple of times. So there was one blatant one where it's nighttime and there's an alleyway and it looks like that. But then there's a few ones where she's leaving her home and have similar shots, and you can kind of, I like things like that, so you can sort of work out what that's trying to tell you. So for me, that even though she's in this big area, seaside town, everything still's quite cramped around her. There was a lot of colours too. There was a lot of like uses of red and amber to make like the warm colours. Then there was like cold green. So I was expecting like Morpheus to come out in the green scene saying, Maud, come with me. It's all done really well. And some scenes Maud will look really grey and just drained, and then there'll be more colour in her cheeks when she's like feel like she has some connection with Amanda. But all of this used, the camera angles, the shots used, and the colours really enhanced the film in a very effective but subtle way. Also like the runtime. Short and sweet, keep it neat, 90 minutes or less. She has a story to tell, she's in, and she's out. Done. And there was no filler, no useless moments. Don't get me wrong, there were some scenes where I was like, come on, move along, or did that really need to be there? But generally, I like a film, especially horrors, because some horror films, they can conclude really quickly, but they decide to do a third act that just like jumps the shark, goes over the top, does too much, and you're like, don't really appreciate that ending. So I like the fact that this was a short, sweet movie. Also like the themes and the way that everyone can have their own interpretation of this movie. And by that, it's like I mentioned earlier, you could have 10 people in a room watching this film, and you would all come out, well, maybe not all of you, but a good chunk of you would come out with a different version of how you saw the film. So are you seeing it as Maud is a saint? Maud is chosen by God. This was her purpose in life. This was her purpose all along. And she's chosen, but it's just in a modern world, in a modern day, where these kind of things are like, no, she must be crazy. Like, who's a saint? No one can be a saint. But she's actually doing God's work. Or you can look at it as Maud's just absolutely crazy, insane, that she's just seeing everything and imagining everything that's in front of her. Or is it a bit of both? Now, I know most people will be like, oh God, that ending, it stayed with me for days and days. But for me, I thought the ending was pretty cool. Like it's not a spoiler, but the last part of the film, my reaction was like, oh God, because it is what it is, and I think it was the best ending for the film in my opinion. I thought it was like I love horrors, and some films can have good endings, and I wanted this to have a bad ending, and when I got it, I was like, cool. Now, what issues did I have? Now, like I said, it's a nice, short, sweet film, but there are some scenes that are just boring. And for me, sometimes it felt like a longer film as a result. It didn't feel like an hour and a half film. It kind of felt like an hour and 45 to 2 hours. When these scenes popped on, you're like, all right, come on, hurry up. And there's a scene. Now, what's funny about this scene is I always know when they're coming. So Maud's in this bar, and she starts seeing stuff, and she's knocking over drinks, and she bumps into someone. And he's like, you owe me some drinks. And then she looks at him, and there's a little pause, and I knew straight away there was going to be a sex scene. So, and then, yeah, they get it on, and after he's saying something about her life, and it's like, was this for a really necessary scene? Like, you just gave like a little bit of exposition, but we kind of figured this out ourselves, didn't need you. So that was a bit of a stupid scene. With everything said, the fact I went into this movie with no expectations, I wasn't hyped for this at all. What would I give this film? And with my rating system, I'm going to give this film a shiny bronze. St. Maud is a good film. It's got good acting, it's got interesting characters, it's got a great third act, it's got some tense moments, it looks good, it sounds good, but it hasn't got much more than that. It hasn't got that pull factor I want in a film. It isn't going to make me want to watch this film again and again and again. Hereditary, I could put on now and put it on next month and still have a really good time. With St. Maud, it hasn't got that it hasn't got much meat on the bone. See, there's not much to chew on after the first couple of times you've seen it. And if you enjoyed the film, it's absolutely fine. If you love the film, if you thought it was the best horror that's come out in years, that's absolutely fine. For me, it was an okay horror film. And I use the word horror loosely because it's not so much a horror film, it just has more of a psychological feel to it with a few horror elements at the very end. So guys, that was my review of Saint Maud. Short and quick this time round because the film doesn't really lend itself to any fun stuff. But yeah, I hate it. So guys, let me know in the comment section below, did you like it, did you hate it, were you a bit in the middle, did you find it a snore fest, or was it like the craziest horror film you've ever seen in your entire life? Let me know because I am interested. Also drop me those likes on this video if you enjoyed it because it does help me out, and go and check out my other videos too and drop me likes as well because I am a small YouTuber starting out and every little helps. And I'll have a video out every Friday, hopefully more midweek, depending on how much time I get. But until then, stay out of trouble.